In the last decade, the biggest and most promising name in horror filmmaking has come from a pretty unexpected place.
Well, la-dee-da.
But while some people are surprised that Jordan Peele made the leap from comedy to horror so seamlessly, the truth is that the techniques that make him such a great comedian are the same ones that make him a master of horror storytelling.
Right.
Jordan Peele's Get Out was a huge commercial and critical success, something that's unfortunately rare for horror movies, and his next feature, Us, already has buzz surrounding it. Not to mention that Peele is involved in the production of CBS's Twilight Zone reboot and HBO's horror drama Lovecraft Country. Needless to say, he has become a major power player in the horror industry. To understand how Peele's horror projects connect to his comedy work, we first need to understand a little bit about what makes both genres tick. I think Stephen King puts it really well in this interview from 1993.
It's a childish thing, the way the humor is. The two things are closely allied. They both elicit, when they work to their best, a vocal reaction from the audience.
Horror and comedy both play with tension. Essentially, they ask a question. What is going to happen if he goes into the basement, when the food poisoning hits, when he goes into room 237, or when Osgood finds out that Jerry is a man? The satisfaction of these genres comes from answering these questions. The only difference is how the answers make us feel.
Laughter, if it's comedy.
Well, nobody's perfect.
A scream or a yell, if it's horror.
So let's take a look at the way Jordan Peele uses tension in his scenes. Just as a note, we're going to be avoiding Key and Peele sketches that draw from horror tropes because that just kind of feels like cheating. First, let's look at a pretty clear example of tension in a sketch.
My name is Heinrich Leroy Heimer.
In this sketch from Key and Peele's third episode, we see two black men in whiteface hiding from the Nazis in World War II Germany. The tension is really clear from the start, and every time the SS officer tries another ridiculous method to test whether or not Key and Peele are black, we are asked this question: what will happen when he tries this new method? The answer, of course, is nothing.
Nothing? Well, that's embarrassing.
None of these tests actually work, but every time he tries one, the audience is held in suspense. Finally, the big payoff at the end adds a final joke to lighten the mood after a string of tense interactions.
He left the cat toy, man.
Compare this to an interrogation scene of sorts in Get Out, in which Rod tries to find out what happened to Chris.
Where's Chris?
He left 2 days ago.
He left?
The question here is, what will happen if Rod confronts Rose? The answer is frightening, or maybe just creepy, because now we understand that Rose has a plan for everything.
She's a genius.
Or what about a sketch that isn't as clear with its tension? In this weird sketch, Keegan-Michael Key plays a man obsessed with putting marbles in his mouth. The tension comes from the fact that this is a job interview and he doesn't want to seem crazy to the person interviewing him.
I was wondering what it would feel like in my mouth. Like, what would the marbles feel like if they were in my mouth? That's, you know.
The payoff comes at the end when we learn that the interviewer put the marbles there as a trap.
Send in the cleanup crew. Another one fell for the marble trick.
Compare this to another socially awkward, tense scene, like the party sequence in Get Out, in which the tension builds as party guests make Chris feel more and more uncomfortable. The payoff here, and a really unnerving moment in the film, comes when Chris tries to confront Andre, the only other black person at the party. But rather than answering the question, Peele sets up another larger question.
Get out! Yo! Yeah! Yo, chill, man. Get out! Chill, man.
This is partly because Get Out isn't just a great horror film, but it's also a great mystery, but that's a subject for a different video. Now, none of this is to say that all of Peele's work is built on this principle. There's plenty of Key and Peele and Mad TV sketches that are just plain goofy.
What? Come on, man.
But Jordan Peele is great at setting up situations that keep the audience in suspense. When you start to look closely at his work, it's easy to see how he made the leap from this,
The player formerly known as Mouse Cop,
to this.
Be careful.
So next time you pull up an old Key and Peele sketch on YouTube, or when you sit down in the theater to watch Us, think about what question Jordan Peele is asking that's keeping you on the edge of your seat.